Welcome to Buckeyes Tomorrow Morning for Saturday, October 8th. I'm your host, Tom Orr. The Michigan State game is today, the game against Michigan in 49 days. I'm joined by Kevin Noon this morning from BuckeyeHuddle.com. We are in Michigan right now. We'll be headed up to East Lansing in just a little bit, but beforehand, we're going to talk a little Ohio State, Michigan State preview. Kevin wrote his weekly Tale of the Tape column, which is super in-depth examination of how the two teams match up, a little bit of series history stuff. So we're going to be talking a little bit about that today. I feel like we've talked the Ohio State side of this to death this week, so I want to talk a little bit more about Michigan State. With Michigan State, I think a lot of the focus in the last years, if you ask anyone on the street, what is Michigan State bad at, everyone's going to say pass defense, and they're going to be right. They were 130th in the country in total passing yardage allowed last year, 115th as of right now, but the stats are kind of ugly in a bunch of different places. What is maybe the biggest concern on defense for Michigan State coming into this game?
Well, I mean, it is going to be in the secondary. It is going to be pass defense. They're without Xavier Henderson, safety out of Pickerington, Ohio. Sounds like he could be shut down for the year. I don't know if that's happened yet or if that's something that could be happening, but he's not been going. They lost Jacob Slade, a talented linebacker, earlier in the year after the Western Michigan game, I believe. But, I mean, at the end of the day, they really haven't gotten that much better in terms of defending the pass. And you can say, well, they're 15 spots higher. Well, that doesn't really make you 15 times better. It just means where everybody else is around you in terms of the rankings. So it's just not there. They went to the transfer portal, picked up a D2 guy, picked up somebody, out of FCS, and it just hasn't happened at this point for them. And this is exactly the type of opponent they don't want to face, a skilled passer. When they made Tanner Morgan look like an All-American, and that's nothing against Tanner Morgan, but Tanner Morgan isn't a quarterback with the same pedigree in terms of what C.J. Stroud has. It could get bad.
Yeah, and this is, Mel Tucker year one, he went to the transfer portal and really hit it big, and Kenneth Walker was sort of the big name there. But they kind of restocked the cupboard a little bit because it was the cupboard had gotten a little bare there towards the end of the Mark D'Antonio era, and then Tucker came in at a very weird time where he didn't take the job in December like a lot of coaches do, or January. He came in like March, and so that he was kind of behind the eight ball a little bit, and restocked the cupboard to the transfer portal, and it really worked last year. And they, outside of the Ohio State game, they really played pretty well all year. They beat Michigan, they go to the Peach Bowl, they win the Peach Bowl, they beat the ACC champion Pitt in the Peach Bowl, and it's like, oh boy, this guy's got it rolling. And LSU came calling, and he parlayed that into a $95 million contract extension. And it's like, all right, let's go back to the portal and do it again. And sometimes the portal doesn't work, but he's got his $95 million, so he's doing all right. Up front on the defensive side, Ohio State really didn't have to run the ball last year against Michigan State, and that's another. They're not as bad against the run as they are against the pass, but the defensive, the front seven on the defense is not tremendous for Michigan State this year either.
No, they're not great in terms of what they do in terms of blocking the run as well. So Ohio State's going to have a lot of options there. It's going to be a matter of how Ohio State just tries to stay ahead of what Michigan State's doing. But I think even playing equal and saying, we know what you're going to do and we're going to do what we do, that Michigan State's not going to have a lot of opportunity there. I mean, Michigan State's going to need to force turnovers. They have 0 interceptions on the season. That's right, 0.
But is that a lot?
No, it's not. But they do have 9 forced fumbles, 7 fumble recoveries. But then if you go and you look at that, again, a lot of those stats are padded by what they did in their non-conference schedule, what they did against FCS competition. So you always have, we're starting to get to the point where numbers mean a little bit more, even though we still focus on a lot of the wrong stats. I'm getting in terms of what, Tom hating certain stats out there, but at least the numbers start to mean more at this point. But we're still at the point where things could really be weighted by your non-conference schedule, especially those bye games that might be on your schedule.
Yeah, Michigan State has played a couple MAC teams. They played Washington out of conference. And, in conference, last week they played Maryland. They lost to Maryland. Maryland's okay, but Maryland is not Penn State or Michigan or Ohio State probably. So they have, Ohio State very clearly by a wide margin going to be the best team that Maryland has played this year, that Michigan State has played this year. And, already the numbers aren't great. You figure they're probably not going to get better on Saturday. On the offensive side of the ball, I think there's a little more hope for Michigan State on the offensive side of the ball. Payton Thorne is back. They lost Kenneth Walker off of last year's team, but Payton Thorne is back. They've got some talent in the wide receiver room. Where does Michigan State make its hay on offense on Saturday? Where do you think they're going to be able to move the ball against Ohio State? Are they going to be able to run it? Are they going to have to throw it? Or is this just going to be more bad times?
It's going to, short answer is going to be bad times. Longer answer, I think they have a better chance of throwing the ball than they are running the ball. As you've said, Kenneth Walker III is gone. They went out. They got Jalen Berger from Wisconsin. They got Jarek Broussard from Colorado. Neither of them have really set the world on fire. Berger's been a little bit more productive, 5.1 yards per carry versus 4.7 from Broussard, but neither of them have lit it up. And certainly against Big Ten opponents, it has been a whole lot of nothing in the 60-yard range, something along those lines. Payton Thorne is not the Payton Thorne that we saw last year. And by that, I talk about over the entirety of 2021, not necessarily against Ohio State. 8 touchdowns, 6 interceptions. He has Jaden Reed back. Jaden Reed is a solid receiver, but he hasn't put up big numbers. Last year, they really did it because they had a 1 and a 1A, and that 1A was Jalen Nailor, who's gone. So no Jalen Nailor, big problem for them. They don't do a great job in terms of the distribution of the ball. It's just kind of a mess. They're just going to have to try and find spots to try and see if they can move the chains, extend drives, and then ultimately going back to the other side of the ball, steal some possessions.
Yeah, I was going to ask. I don't know. Ohio State's coming in as a 25-point favorite. Last time I saw a line of it, moved a little since then.
It might be up a little up, yeah.
We have seen in the past that was in Ohio State was like a 27-something point favorite in 1998. So it's like crazy stuff can happen. You have seen crazy stuff happen in this series from time to time. If something crazy happens, not even necessarily Michigan State wins, but this is a one-possession game in the fourth quarter, and you've got the shots of the Ohio State fans in the stands kind of chewing their fingernails nervously. What does it take to get you to that point on Saturday?
Yeah, not to steal something from another show, when I watched you guys, when we did our live show on Friday evening, and it's also available on podcast, but I think it is going to be a case of Ohio State's going to have to be somewhere around -5 in terms of turnovers. And then if Michigan State's able to shut down either the run or the pass, and then Ohio State really has to get really one-dimensional and maybe presses a little too much. When Ohio State presses too much, good things generally don't happen. So take the ball away, keep Ohio State's offense on the sidelines in conjunction with that, and get Ohio State to a point of where it's really having to kind of play catch up and maybe getting out of things that Ryan Day may have scripted in his head already, and that they're having to sit there and make these adjustments. And we talk about in baseball, play the ball, don't let the ball play you. Ohio State can't let Michigan State come in and play them. It has to go the other way.
Well, last year Ohio State did not have any challenges with playing Michigan State. They were up 21-0, I think, after the first quarter, and 49-0 at halftime. This year, you would think it's going to be a little closer, but one of the things that may go a little ways to determining that is how healthy is Ohio State right now. And we have seen a lot of guys in very specific areas. Like the offensive line has been healthy, the defensive line has been healthy, the linebackers have been healthy, the running backs, you've had a couple guys get hurt, you've had a couple wide receivers hurt, you've had a bunch of guys hurt in the secondary. How many people are you anticipating we get back? Because we ask Ryan Day during the week, and you sort of get an answer where it's you're shaking the magic 8 ball, and there's a lot of answer unclear, ask again later. What are you anticipating? Are you anticipating that we see Jackson Smith and Jigba? Are you anticipating we see guys like Cam Martinez and Jordan Hancock and Cam Brown? Are there guys who you think very likely we're going to see them, or is it all kind of like, maybe they're going to let guys have an extra week heading into the bye week?
I think we're going to see Trevion Henderson, but as for some of the other guys, you don't really need them against Michigan State. And as I said on Big Meat Kickoff, you get stuck in this weird intersection, the intersection of we don't want to bring somebody back too soon and have it turn into something else and lose somebody for the Lions' share of the season or the whole season. But conversely, there's something to be said about giving guys some opportunity, getting some reps on tape, being able to kind of diagnose during the open week and then moving forward with that. But I think that they're certainly going to be very cautious with guys like JSN, Jordan Hancock. Tanner McAllister is somebody that I'm kind of on the fence on. I don't know if I have a great read on that one, but, Cam Brown sounded like he was really close. But again, you still have some options out there. You're going to have you're still going to have Denzel Burke out there, who's still kind of dealing with having the wrap on the hand, and then you've got J.K. Johnson, you got Jair Brown. But I think that Michigan State certainly has some better receivers in terms of some of their athletic talents than what Rutgers had. But is Payton Thorne going to be able to deliver the ball? And I'm not really convinced on that.
Well, it should be a lovely day for football in East Lansing. The last time we were up here, Ohio State was up here in 2020. The last time, at least Tony and I were up here, was 2018, and it was about 20 degrees and snowy and windy and just a mess of a day. Saturday looking like a much nicer day. Should be in the mid-30s in the morning, but by the time kickoff rolls around, somewhere in the mid-50s, kind of partly cloudy, winds 10 to 15 miles an hour. It should be a very, very nice fall day for football, and probably a nice day to watch the Ohio State offense kind of without any sort of encumbrances from the weather like there were the last time they were up in the state of Michigan. So we will have our full pregame coverage coming up Saturday morning, live from the state of Michigan. We'll be up here doing our usual pregame show at youtube.com/Buckeye Huddle. Make sure you are subscribed to our YouTube channel so you don't miss any of that. And then post-game, we'll have our full post-game show live from the stadium after the game. We'll have Mark Givler and Devin Radcliffe. We'll do the sort of immediate final gun, instant analysis kind of stuff. Then we'll have our post-game coverage of interviews, and then Tony and I will do the Buckeye Weekly Instant Reaction Show. Those are generally, 2+ hours of post-game content. Always a lot of fun, and even more fun when we have you guys there asking questions, so we can chat with you guys a little bit and find out what you want to know and answer questions. Because odds are, if you're thinking something, there are probably hundreds of other people out there also wondering. So we want to give you guys what you want. So best way to do that is to be subscribed to our YouTube channel, hit that bell, get notified when we go live, and then join us for that post-game show, again, at youtube.com/Buckeye Huddle. That will do it for today. Thank you guys all for joining us. Have a great day. Enjoy the football. We'll talk to you a little later on.